Guys, I have some exciting news. My cinema LUT collection is finally here. So, how did you like them? In my opinion, those cinema LUTs are pretty dang spicy looking. I've been literally working on these cinema LUTs for months, just tweaking, making changes to get them as cinematic as possible and as easy as possible for you guys to use. Now in the cinema collection, we have 10 cinematic grading LUTs and then 1 conversion LUT to take your Sony S-Log3 footage to Rec. 9. Now, in no means does that mean that these grading LUTs are only for Sony cameras, because we tested out these grading LUTs with Sony, Canon, Blackmagic, pretty much every camera company, because we wanted these cinema LUTs to work for everybody. Now in saying that, does that mean that these cinema LUTs are a one-click wonder? No, there is no such thing. You always have to have a workflow and process to get the most out of any cinema LUT. So that's what we're gonna go over in this video. I'm gonna show you my process and workflow on how to use these cinema LUTs and how to get the best possible image in the end. Now before we jump into Final Cut Pro and do some grading with the cinema LUTs, a few things to keep in mind. In my opinion, it's always best to film in a log picture profile, which means a very flat and desaturated profile in order to get the most amount of dynamic range. Now, if your camera doesn't have a log picture profile, that's okay. You can still use these cinematic LUTs, but it's gonna help to have as much dynamic range in your footage as possible. I'm personally shooting with the Sony a7S III, and I'm shooting with the S-Log3 picture profile and color mode S Cinetone. And that's what the conversion LUT has been created for. So if you wanna get the exact same look coming out of your camera as I do, make sure you're filming with that picture profile. But if you have a different picture profile, that's okay. You're just gonna have to get a conversion LUT for your specific log picture profile. Most camera companies like Canon or DJI are offering on their websites a conversion LUT, so don't stress it. It's really easy. You just gotta download, install it into your editing program, and then just at a click of a button, you're gonna be able to get your footage from log back to Rec. 709, which just means a nice added contrast and saturation back to normal. All right, let's jump into Final Cut Pro and let me show you how I'm grading with my cinema LUTs. All right, so here I've chosen a few clips. This one's from my office studio just to get kind of a very neutral look. Then we have a few clips from my trip to Iceland, and then I have a few drone clips because I want to show you that these cinema grading LUTs work as well with different cameras, even with drones. You just gotta do some tweaking, and with different conversion LUTs, you can get the same final product. Also, if you're not using Final Cut Pro, don't stress. You're gonna be able to get the same final results whether using Premiere or DaVinci, because most of these programs have the same tools accessible. So the way I start my color grading process is that I always add an adjustment layer on top of my footage, and then from there, I add 2 custom LUTs on top of the adjustment layer. And then from there, I'm just gonna cut the adjustment layer on top of each clip so I can individually grade each clip. Okay, so we're gonna go to this first clip, and because I filmed this with the S-Log3 S Cinetone picture profile I've created, I'm gonna just go there and add my conversion LUT that I've included in the pack. Now, if you're not filming in that same picture profile or the same camera, you're gonna have a different conversion LUT take it from log to Rec. 709, which basically just means this very flat, desaturated look to a normal contrast saturated look. So already with just that one click, we've, color corrected from log to Rec. 709. It looks good and normal. And now we're ready to add a grading LUT. So now with the second custom LUT, I can go here and choose from one of the 10 different cinema LUTs that I have in the pack. Now, I'm gonna add cinema LUT 1 because I know that this looks pretty good for my office studio. Now, at first, this looks like a little bit too much. It looks like it's just too much. And this is a big mistake that most people make when it comes to LUTs, is that they don't realize that you can actually take down the strength of the LUT. So here with the mix, you can bring it down from 1, which is essentially 100%, and you can bring it down to whatever you think looks best. I personally like to have it around 60 to 70%. I feel like that's a good amount for a color grading LUT. Now at this point, once I've got my correction LUT and I've got my grading LUT, then I see, do I need to do some tweaking? So what I do usually is I go and add the color wheels, and then I go and add hue saturation curves. So I'm gonna bring these up here to the top because I want them to affect in order. And when it comes to the color wheels, let's see, I'm gonna try just testing out with the magenta a little bit, maybe 1. Let's see if I should bring it a little bit cooler. I think I like the warmth. The skin tones, maybe they're a little bit like too yellowish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring the eyedropper, I'm gonna choose my skin, and then from there I'm gonna choose the middle control point, which is gonna affect the skin tones. So let's see, if I bring it down, it's gonna make it even more yellow. We don't want that. Maybe just a small little tweak to make it not as yellowish. Let's see. And already that's looking pretty good. So let's just take these all off. So we got the custom LUT, just a small little tweak to the white balance and the skin tones, and then the color grading LUT. Voila, looks pretty dang good already. I love that it's literally just like 2 clicks and a little bit of adjustments and you've graded your footage. All right, let's go to something that's not studio where it's perfect light. We're gonna go to a nature shot. So again, we have our 2 custom LUTs. This is filmed again in S-Log3 S-Cine tone. So I'm just gonna go here and choose my conversion LUT, and voila, now we've got a nice contrast and saturation to the footage. I can already tell at this point that the skin tones are a little bit too red or a little bit too pink. So I'm gonna go to the hue saturation curves again. I'm gonna put it to the top. I'm gonna choose Gunner's skin right here, and I can see that, okay, it's a little bit too red, so I'm gonna bring it down to make it a little bit more orange, kind of warm tones rather than the red. I'm gonna as well bring down the saturation of skin tones because it's looking to look just a little bit too saturated. All right, so that's looking pretty good now. Now we've added the correction LUT, we've done some color correction, and now I'm gonna choose a color grading LUT that I think will look good with the footage. So let's try number 2. Okay, that's looking already really sick. Again, this is a pretty intense look when it's at 100%. So I'm just gonna bring down from 100% down. Let's bring it down to like 38, 50, 60, 70. Again, I think 70 looks cool. So this is without the color grading LUT, and this is with the color grading LUT. Really cool look. It's got this kind of like blue tones in the darks and the shadows, but then nice orange warmth to the skin tones, which I like. So this is a really great looking LUT. All right, we're gonna now go to clip number 3. This is a sunset shot of Arnarfjörð when we were hanging in Iceland. Sunsets are always a little bit harder when it comes to color grading, but let's see what we can do. So first, we're gonna choose again the S-Log3 to Rec. 79 conversion LUT, and that looks pretty good. Again, I think his skin is looking a little bit red. Arnarfjörð was in the sun all day that day, so I think he got a little bit burned. So we're gonna go here and go to the hue saturation, and we're gonna just choose the skin tones. And again, we're just gonna bring it down just a little bit, not too much. And maybe we're gonna desaturate his skin just a little bit, just to get a nice base for where we're going. So just like that, from red to a little bit more orange. Okay, now we're gonna choose a grading LUT. So we're gonna go to Cinema LUTs, Cinema LUT, and then let's choose number 5. Okay, at first, very dark, punchy, just doesn't look that good, but again, it's because it's at 100%. So we're gonna bring it down, and we're gonna try maybe like 60%. It's still looking a little bit too dark, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add a color wheel, and then we're gonna go here, bring it to the top, and then we're just gonna change a little bit the exposure. So I'm gonna bring the highlights a little bit. I'm gonna make it a little bit warmer, and then it's looking a little bit too green, yellow right now, so we're gonna add magenta. Let's see how much to the shot. And in my opinion, that looks pretty good already. So this is without the grading LUT, and this is with the grading LUT. A nice little desaturated look to the footage. Okay, and now our last clip. This is of Gunnar hanging out with his lava jeep here by the Krakatinden mountain. This is like a backlit, middle of the daylight shot. So let's see how that looks. We're gonna go here and add the conversion LUT. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Then from there, we're gonna add a Cinema LUT. So let's try Cinema LUT number 2. Very nice right away. This gives like a, kind of punchy, dark look. Obviously it's 100%, so we don't want that completely. So we're gonna bring it down to, let's say, I think 75 actually looks pretty good right away. And to be honest, this looks good just off the bat. Not too much adjustments need to be made. Sometimes that's just how it goes. Maybe I would a little bit just play with the hue saturation of his Jeep because it's going a little bit kind of like purpley. So we're just going to play with the color of his Jeep a little bit. So we're just going to bring it more red, and as well his skin tones look a lot better already because of that. So look at that. So this with all the effects off. We have the conversion LUT, we have the grading LUT, and then we just play with the hue saturation a little bit to get the skin tones and the color of the Lava Jeep just right. Now at this point, you still might be skeptical thinking that these cinema LUTs are only for Sony cameras. So that's why I'm gonna show you how to color grade even DJI drone footage, which is often kind of hard to color grade. So first, we're gonna choose a conversion LUT. And this is just downloaded from DJI's website. It's the DJI Mavic 3 D-Log to Rec 709 conversion LUT. So from there, we've already have, the contrast and saturation back into the footage. From here, I'm gonna choose one of my cinema grading LUTs. So from here, I'm gonna choose Cinema LUT 10. Okay, so at first, a little bit too strong, so I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. And as well, now we're gonna do some color correction because it's a little bit underexposed, and just gonna play with the white balance. So I'm gonna play a little bit here. It's a little bit cold for my taste, so let's bring it up. And now it's a little bit too green, so let's play with the magenta. All right, that looks already pretty good. Maybe a little bit too much magenta, let's see. But look at that. That looks already really good. The Cinema LUT 10 just brings the desaturation down in the greens and just gives those nice green earthy tones, as you can see when I turn it on and off. All right, let's go to the next DJI clip. So again, we're gonna add the DJI Mavic 3 D-Log to Rec 709. And then from here, I'm gonna add another Cinema LUT. I'm gonna do Cinema LUT number 5. And this gives this kind of cool, like yellowish green tone. So I'm gonna just bring it down a little bit, but I actually do want it quite high because this is a very stylized look. And then from here, we're just gonna play with the color wheels just to see what we can play around with when it comes to the white balance and exposure. So I'm gonna and look at that, already that looks really sick. This is before and this is after. Really cool look with these Cinema LUTs. Okay, and now our last DJI clip. Again, we're gonna add the conversion LUT from DJI, so the DJI Mavic 3 D-Log to Rec 709. And then from there, I'm gonna add my Cinema LUT number 1. This is gonna give kind of like teal and orange look. Again, at 100%, it's too much, so we're gonna bring it down to maybe like 60%, turning that on and off. And already that looks really cool. I always just play around with the color wheels afterwards to just tweak out the white balance a little bit to see what would look better. So this is looking quite green still, so let's see. And then play a little bit with the, and voila, that looks really good. So here's before and after. So yeah, that's honestly how simple it is to use these Cinema LUTs. You're always just gonna go from log to Rec 709, and then you're gonna add whatever Cinema LUT you would like to use that best fits that shot. And then after that, just do some small little tweaks with the color wheel and with hue saturation to get the exposure and the skin tones just right. I'm honestly so excited to see you guys be using these Cinema LUTs, so make sure you go to the store, grab the Cinema LUT pack, and whenever you post anything on Instagram, make sure you tag TH Cinema LUTs. That way I can just check up on them and see how you guys are getting to with the Cinema LUTs. Once again, I just want to thank you guys for your support and just want to wish you guys some good times grading.